specific learning objects will be the heme catabolism process and overall bilirubin metabolism, along with the different causes and types of jaundice, that is the disorder of bilirubin metabolism, and differential diagnosis by laboratory test, differential diagnosis of the different types of jaundices. Okay. So we know that RBC's lifespan is 120 days. 120 days. So RBCs can live up to 120 days in the peripheral circulation. Okay, and RBC contains nothing but hemoglobin. So as we are discussing about heme metabolism, heme takes parts in formation of mainly hemoglobin and other heme containing proteins like myoglobin and cytochrome oxidase and all. Okay, so metabolism, heme metabolism means degradation of hemoglobin, releasing the heme and globin. So RBCs after 120 days they will come into the circulation till reticuloendothelial systems. Okay, they are fine capillaries. The fragile RBCs, when pass through them, they rupture. Okay, and this leads to release of free hemoglobin in the reticuloendothelial cells. There comes the macrophages. Okay, macrophages, they engulf the hemoglobin, and there is an enzyme named as heme oxygenase that is present in the microsome of the macrophages. Okay, so what happens? They break down the hemoglobin into heme and globin part, and the heme further, the breakdown of heme occurs. It is a tetrapyrrole ring structure. Heme we have studied, it is a tetrapyrrole ring structure. So it breaks the ring and it becomes a linear chain of tetrapyrrole. Okay, and into biliverdin, that is a green colored compound. What happens here? Look, so after 120 days, hemoglobin is released from dying RBCs and they are processed by macrophages in the reticuloendothelial system, where this reticuloendothelial system is present in spleen, liver and bone marrows. Okay, there are fine fenestrations or capillaries through which, when the RBCs, old RBCs pass, they break down. Okay, and the hemoglobin is released. Then the hemoglobin is dissociated into heme and globin. Globin part is degraded. Globin is a protein part. It will be degraded into amino acids, all the amino acids, and they will further provide for reuse. Okay, now 6 gram of hemoglobin is broken down per day, releasing 250 milligram of bilirubin per day. Now, other than the sources of bilirubin is other than hemoglobin, they are the heme containing proteins like myoglobin and cytochrome oxidase, as I told you. So from myoglobin and other heme containing proteins, we get 50 milligram of bilirubin. So total 30 milligram of bilirubin is formed every day, of which 80% is from old RBCs, 10% is from ineffective erythropoiesis. Ineffective erythropoiesis means formation of RBCs, formation of RBCs in bone marrow. So formation of RBC, during formation, if there is any deformities, that RBC gets discarded. So the heme from that RBC, they take part in formation of 10% of total bilirubin, and other 10% comes from degradation of myoglobin and cytochrome proteins. Okay, so if asked in your MCQ questions, what is the major source of bilirubin? So that will be the old RBCs, hemoglobin from old RBCs. Now, so this is the breakdown of hemoglobin pathway. So RBCs, red blood cells, when they are ruptured after 120 days, hemoglobin is released. From that, globin part is separated and they are degraded into various amino acids which are further reutilized. And heme part, this comes into the microsome of macrophage. Okay, this is also asked. In the heme breakdown pathway, which portion occurs in which organelle? So, heme breakdown is done by heme oxygenase enzyme in the microsome of macrophages with the help of cofactor NADPH. Okay, and oxygen is required here. and what is released? Iron in ferric form is released. What is the form of iron in heme? Ferrous form. Very good. So it is ferrous when it is in heme. When it is dislodged from heme, it comes as ferric form. Okay. So what is formed? It is heme is converted into biliverdin by releasing one ferric iron, NADPH plus and carbon monoxide. This also comes as a important question, MCQ question. So where is the production of carbon monoxide occur in our body? Okay, so it is when the heme is broken down to bilirubin, the first step where heme oxygenase enzyme acts, there carbon monoxide is produced endogenously in our body. Our body produces carbon monoxide. Okay, now biliverdin. Biliverdin, it is a green colored tetrapyrrole linear chain. Okay, and by further enzyme activity of biliverdin reductase and again the same cofactor NADPH, it is converted into bilirubin. Okay, bilirubin is a yellow colored compound. So this is the structure of heme. Okay, this you have to remember for your MBA exam also. So this is the structure of a heme tetrapyrrole. Tetra means 4 pyrrole rings are there linked by methynyl bonds. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is joined by alpha linkage, 2 and 3 by beta linkage, 3, 4 by gamma linkage, 4 and 1 by delta linkage. So all these linkages are specific, they have specific numbers or names and the rings are also specific. So this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And what are MVP? They are the side chains of methyl group, vinyl group or propionyl group. So this sequence is fixed for heme structure, like 1, 2, 1, 2, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8. Okay, these positions are fixed for heme. What happens in heme breakdown? First step, heme oxygenase acts on heme to produce biliverdin. So what is biliverdin? It is a linear tetrapyrrole chain. Can you remember another linear tetrapyrrole chain when heme was getting produced in the heme synthesis pathway? Do you remember any linear tetrapyrrole compound? No, protoporphyrin is the just previous precursor of heme. It is hydroxymethylbilane. Okay, hydroxymethylbilane, that is the combination of porphobilinogens. Okay, porphobilinogen, before producing porphobilinogen, it becomes the linear chain. Okay, so here is the structure of heme. So what happens when the heme is carried out to the microsomes of macrophages? There is a system, enzyme system called heme oxygenase, which acts in the presence of NADPH and oxygen. So ferric ion and carbon monoxide are released, a green pigment biliverdin is produced. Then again biliverdin is converted to bilirubin by biliverdin reductase, and this bilirubin and its derivatives, they are collectively called as bile pigments. Okay, so bilirubin, biliverdin, they are bile pigments. Now see, now remember the heme structure. This is the ring 1, this is 2, 3 and 4. So the chain breaks between, linkage breaks between 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2, and this linear tetrapyrrole chain is known as biliverdin. Right? Now look, a reductase enzyme acts on this linkage 3 and 4, like this is the gamma linkage. Okay, so next it is reduced and double bond linkage is converted into single bond linkage. So the difference between biliverdin and bilirubin is there is a presence of double bond in biliverdin in the gamma bond region, where there is no double bond in bilirubin in the gamma bond region. Clear? Now, what is the difference between bile pigment and bile salts? What are the difference between bile pigment and bile salts? Bile pigments, I just told that bile pigments are bilirubin and biliverdins and their derivatives, whereas bile salts means they have to form a sodium salt of bile acids. Bile acids means glycocolate and taurocolate, glycolic acid or taurocholic acid. So, sodium or potassium salts of bile acids. They are sodium or potassium glycocolate or taurocolate, right? So they are produced from cholesterol. Both are present in bile. Bile pigment and bile salt both are present in bile. There is no such role of bile pigments in our body. Okay, so when they are converted into bile salts by making the salts of bile acids, okay, then they are used for fat absorption. Otherwise, the bile pigment itself, bilirubin, is a neurotoxic substance. Okay. Next, what is the fate of bilirubin? So, have you understood the process of heme breakdown and bilirubin formation? So, heme comes from hemoglobin of the old RBCs or the heme containing other proteins, and they are converted into biliverdin first in the microsome of macrophages. Here comes another thing, that this biliverdin reductase enzyme which converts biliverdin to bilirubin is a cytosolic enzyme. Okay, so both steps they occur in different places. Heme to biliverdin occurs in microsomes and biliverdin to bilirubin occurs in cytosol. Okay. Now, fate of bilirubin. Metabolism and excretion of bilirubin occurs mainly in liver and intestine. Okay, so what you understand by metabolism and excretion? From formation to transport to excretion from body. Okay, so it takes place mainly in liver and intestine, and it can be divided into the following processes. So, where bilirubin was getting formed? In the reticuloendothelial system, they were in spleen, liver and bone marrow, so they will come to liver. Okay, so the immediately after formation of bilirubin, they are lipid soluble and water insoluble, hydrophobic and lipophilic. Okay, so they cannot mix with the blood, and as blood contains much more amount of water, it is mostly water. So for the transportation of bilirubin, that is unconjugated bilirubin or the bilirubin that is recently formed or that is without any conjugation product, okay, so that will be transported to liver. Then liver will uptake that unconjugated bilirubin. There will be conjugation of bilirubin in the liver in the next step. Next, after conjugation, that conjugated bilirubin will be secreted into the bile, okay, and after that bile is secreted, that conjugated bilirubin will be excreted through feces or urine. Okay, so all these steps, they comes under the metabolism of bilirubin. So look at this picture. So formation in spleen or reticuloendothelial cells, hemoglobin is getting converted into bilirubin. Okay, so this bilirubin which is getting produced in reticuloendothelial cells, they are water insoluble. So we have to carry them to liver via blood, and how will it be possible? This unconjugated bilirubin will bind with albumin. Albumin is a serum protein Okay, albumin is a protein. So, albumin is present in maximum amount in blood. So, in the serum proteins, albumin is the major protein. So, it will bind the bilirubin as it will be in a soluble form, or it can be easily, not soluble form, it can be easily carried. Okay, and carried to where? Carried to liver. Okay, so here in liver this bilirubin without the albumin will be taken inside the hepatocytes. So here transport, uptake, then conjugation. In the conjugation part, what happens? This bilirubin, which is insoluble in water, taito, unconjugated bilirubin is insoluble in water, it will be converted to soluble form. And how it happens? By the combination of glucuronic acids. Okay, so bilirubin diglucuronide is the conjugated form of bilirubin. Okay, this conjugation takes place in liver, only in liver, nowhere else. Okay, and this conjugated bilirubin is then secreted into the bile ducts, and bile ducts carry them to gallbladder or directly to intestine. Now what happens in intestine? There is bilirubin diglucuronide from the bile salt, conjugated bilirubin comes in intestine, and there is bowel bacteria, gut bacteria are there. So gut bacteria, they have glucuronidase enzyme. Okay, so glucuronidase enzyme, they act on the conjugated bilirubin and make them unconjugated again. Okay, so what is the end product? Urobilinogen. Urobilinogen is the end product of conjugated bilirubin metabolism by gut bacteria. So, urobilinogen is a substance that can be further excreted via feces or stool in the form of starcobilinogen. So, starcobilinogen is the compound that gives the stool its brown color. Okay, so urobilinogen is colorless, starcobilinogen is also colorless, but when they are oxidized by air or when they comes in the contact of air, so they are converted into urobilin and starcobilin. Starcobilin gives the brown color to the stool, and urobilin, which gives the urine a pale yellow color. Okay, so how urobilin comes into kidney? By the systemic circulation or enterohepatic circulation. What is enterohepatic? The blood circulation around intestine, they can reabsorb the urobilinogen from gut and it can further send it to liver or to systemic circulation to the kidneys. So, in kidneys urobilinogen will be excreted as urobilin in the urine and give urine a characteristic pale yellow color. So, if asked what is the source or what is the reason behind the pale yellow color or straw yellow color of urine, that is urobilin. In normal urine, urobilin pigment is present in normal amount and that comes from urobilinogen, which is reabsorbed from the enterohepatic circulation and which comes to kidney circulation, systemic circulation to kidney. So, is this clear? Okay, so this is the overall pathway and I will now tell it in details. Okay, so transport to liver, it is transported by albumin. Why albumin is required? Because in order to transport the unconjugated bilirubin, which is insoluble in water, it must be solubilized. So, to solubilize the insoluble unconjugated bilirubin, it is bound to albumin, which is reversible process and the binding is non-covalent type. So, non-covalent binding with albumin and it is reversible in nature. So, now uptake of unconjugated bilirubin by liver. The unconjugated bilirubin albumin complex, it readily passes through the hepatic sinusoids. What is hepatic sinusoids? So, the blood vessel which goes into the liver, it is divided into branches, right? And there is lobular patterns. So, between the hepatocytes and the blood vessels, this structure, sinusoid structure is formed, hexagonal structure is formed. Anatomy te porano hoyni ekhono liver? Okay, so this hepatic sinusoids, until these hepatic sinusoids, this bilirubin albumin complex can pass. Okay, and just outside the hepatocyte, albumin will be released, as it is a reversible covalent bonding with albumin and bilirubin. It will be released. The bilirubin dissociates from albumin and it is taken up by hepatocytes by a protein mediated process, where the transporter protein is organic anion transport protein named OATP 1B1 and OATP 1B3. Okay, this is important for various inherited disorders. Okay, disorders or absence of this transporter proteins will lead to jaundice. Okay, so uptake of unconjugated bilirubin by liver is facilitated process done by a protein mediated transporter, the protein transporter that is called as organic anion transport protein and named as OATP 1B1, OATP 1B3. Okay. Now, what happens when the unconjugated bilirubin enters the hepatocyte? There is another protein known as Y protein or ligandin. Okay, so this is nothing but glutathione S transferase B type of protein, group of protein, glutathione transferase group of protein. So this ligandin is a cytosolic protein in hepatocytes that binds the unconjugated bilirubin after it enters the liver. As it is insoluble in water, it can pass the membrane as it is lipophilic, soluble in fat but insoluble in water. Unconjugated bilirubins, they are insoluble in water but soluble in fat, so they can readily cross the cell membrane of hepatocytes but cannot travel in the cytosol or in the cytoplasm. So to carry that unconjugated bilirubin from the cell membrane to the endoplasmic reticulum where the conjugation occurs, it requires another transporter. So albumin is a larger protein. It carried the unconjugated bilirubin from the reticuloendothelial cells till the sinusoids of the hepatocytes. From there, it is transporter mediated, facilitated entry of that unconjugated bilirubin occurred, and now to carry it to the endoplasmic reticulum we need another protein, that is ligandin protein, or to be specific, it is a glutathione S transferase B protein. Okay. So it acts as the intracellular transporter, binding bilirubin and reducing its efflux back into the plasma. Why? Because it is a both side way. The transporters or the transporter proteins, they can exchange both way. Okay, so prevent the exchange of unconjugated bilirubin again to the sinusoids, it is bound to the ligandin protein, and it facilitates the delivery to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum for conjugation. বোঝা গেছে? ব্লাডে কি থাকে, অ্যালবুমিনের সাথে বাউন্ড থাকে, লিভারে এসে সেই বিলিরুবিনটাই লাইগ্যান্ডিনের সাথে বাইন্ড করে যাচ্ছে, and it prevents bilirubin to go back to the plasma. Now, conjugation of bilirubin in liver. What happens? Fat soluble toxic unconjugated bilirubin is converted into water soluble non-toxic conjugated bilirubin. So I told you that bilirubin in unconjugated form, it is fat soluble and it is neurotoxic. So it should be water soluble, and to get rid of that toxic effect, it should be converted into a non-toxic form. So for that conversion, conjugation occurs, and this occurs in endoplasmic reticulum of hepatocytes via the enzyme UDP glucuronyl transferase 1A1. Okay, to be specific, UDP glucuronyl transferase 1A1. Okay, It adds glucuronic acid, enabling excretion into bile. Drugs like primaquine, chloramphenicol and various other hormonal drugs may interfere in this conjugation process and may cause jaundice. Okay. So look, this conversion of bilirubin to bilirubin diglucuronide occurs in two steps. First, both the steps are mediated by same enzyme UDP glucuronyl transferase, but it adds one glucuronic acid at a time. Okay, so from bilirubin it converts it to bilirubin monoglucuronide. Then in the next step, one more glucuronic acid is added to form bilirubin diglucuronide. Okay, so why I told you that they are both separate steps, because there are various diseases that can occur because of this step mismatch. Okay, so we will see. Now, secretion of conjugated bilirubin into bile. What happens to the conjugated bilirubin? Conjugated bilirubin is water soluble now and it is non-toxic. So, it can be easily secreted in the bile and it will be excreted via our feces mostly. So, conjugated bilirubin is transported across the canalicular membrane by the multiple drug resistance associated protein 2, or to remember MRP2. That protein is MRP2, which pushes the conjugated bilirubin into bile duct with the help of ATP. It is the only energy dependent step in bilirubin metabolism. This can also be asked in MCQs, that what is the energy dependent or ATP dependent step in bilirubin metabolism? That is secretion of conjugated bilirubin into the bile duct. Okay, so this is also a rate limiting step for catabolism of heme or heme breakdown, because why? It gives a feedback mechanism. If this is obstructed, so it will lead to accumulation of conjugated bilirubin in liver. Conjugated bilirubin, more conjugated bilirubin in liver will inhibit the previous pathways. So that becomes a rate limiting step. Clear? Secretion of conjugated bilirubin into bile. Look how it looks from sinusoid into the hepatocytes. This protein is organic anion transporter protein 1B1. It helps in the facilitated diffusion of unconjugated bilirubin into the hepatocytes, where UDP glucuronyl transferase enzyme helps in conjugation of bilirubin in the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, this conjugated bilirubin is excreted out into the bile canaliculi or the bile duct by MRP2 protein, which is ATP dependent. Okay, clear? And why this is ATP dependent? Because this occurs against the gradient. In bile duct, conjugated bilirubin concentration is much higher, so we have to push the conjugated bilirubin from hepatocyte to a higher gradient. For that, ATP is required. This is also the rate limiting step of overall bile metabolism or heme catabolism. Now come to the excretion of bilirubin. What do we understand by the term excretion? It is removal from body. Okay, how bilirubin is removed from body? Once in bile, the conjugated bilirubin, that is bilirubin diglucuronide, it travels to the distal ileum and colon, where bacteria act on them and beta glucuronidase enzyme hydrolyze conjugated bilirubin to unconjugated bilirubin, which is further reduced by bilirubin reductase enzyme to colorless urobilinogen. You have to remember the conversion of bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin to urobilinogen by bacterial beta glucuronidase and bilirubin reductase enzyme. Okay, so this urobilinogen is either excreted unchanged, oxidized and excreted as urobilin, or it can be absorbed passively by the intestine into portal system as urobilinogen. When it is excreted, it is oxidized and converted into urobilin, or in stercobilinogen is converted into stercobilin. But when it is absorbed, it stays as the urobilinogen form. Now see, the 10 to 20% urobilinogen what is reabsorbed, they come into portal circulation and into the enterohepatic circulation. This recycled urobilinogen may be re-excreted into the bile by the liver, okay, and into urine by the kidneys. So what is enterohepatic circulation? Enterohepatic circulation is আমি ছবিটা দেখিয়েছিলাম. This is the enterohepatic circulation. Urobilinogen is getting reabsorbed and it is coming to the liver again and it will be again excreted, or it will come to the systemic circulation to kidney and urobilinogen will be excreted in the form of urobilin. হয়েছে? So urobilinogen is either excreted unchanged or oxidized. This urobilin has an orange color which gives the urine a specific pale yellow. Remaining urobilinogen in the intestine is converted into stercobilinogen. They are both colorless but oxidized to colored compounds urobilin and stercobilin respectively by atmospheric oxidation. And I also told you this is the product. Stercobilin is the pigment which gives the brown color to the stool. Okay. A small percentage filters across the renal glomerulus and is excreted in urine. Now see, unconjugated bilirubin is never found in urine. Unconjugated, this part is very important. Why? The color of urine comes from urobilin. Whether it is normal or high or dark color, everything comes from urobilin pigment. Urobilin pigment comes from urobilinogen. Urobilinogen is produced in our intestine, not in our liver. So to produce dark colored urine, we have to produce high urobilin. High urobilin will come from high urobilinogen. High urobilinogen will be produced only in our intestine. So if there is any obstruction in the bile duct, it will prevent bile to come to intestine, right? So no urobilinogen or very less amount of urobilinogen will be produced, right or not? So in enterohepatic circulation, urobilinogen will not be found. So in stool there will be no color, and in urine it will also be free from urobilin. Okay. Now presence of bilirubin in urine indicates a conjugated hyperbilirubinemia and hepatobiliary disease. So this term is also important. Presence of bilirubin. What kind of bilirubin can be present in urine? Only conjugated bilirubin can be found in urine, because conjugated bilirubin is water soluble. I am not talking about urobilinogen, I am talking about conjugated bilirubin. The high color of urine can because of conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. How? Because in the liver conjugation is occurring. If there is obstruction in bile duct, so whatever the conjugation is happening there, it cannot come into bile, so it will backflow. Okay, it will backflow and it will go into the systemic circulation by backflow. So that conjugated bilirubin will come into systemic circulation and will be excreted in urine. That conjugated bilirubin will give dark color to urine in case of obstructive hyperbilirubinemia. Okay, clear? Now see, what is the difference between unconjugated bilirubin and conjugated bilirubin? It can be asked. So unconjugated bilirubin present normally in plasma and conjugated bilirubin present normally in bile. তাই তো, conjugation, after conjugation whatever the conjugated bilirubin is getting produced, they are excreted in bile, so present normally in bile, whereas unconjugated bilirubin we can find in plasma. They are attached non-covalently to albumin, whereas conjugated bilirubin are conjugated to glucuronic acids. Okay, now has higher molecular weight and cannot be filtered through kidney. unconjugated bilirubin has higher molecular weight and cannot be filtered through the kidneys. Now, conjugated bilirubin, it is of small molecular weight and can present in plasma, can be filtered through the kidneys. As unconjugated bilirubin is attached with albumin, it cannot cross the glomerular membrane. So, it cannot come into urine. But conjugated bilirubin, they are conjugated with glucuronic acid, which is very small in molecular weight. So, they can easily pass through the glomerular membrane and come into the urine. বলে ওটা পাস করতে পারে না, ঠিক আছে? Now, unconjugated bilirubin is non-polar, insoluble in plasma and it can cross blood-brain barrier. Why? Because blood-brain barrier, how it can cross blood-brain barrier? Because it is fat soluble. Cell membranes are nothing but lipids, তাই তো? It is a lipid membrane, mostly bilayer lipid membrane, so it can easily cross through blood-brain barrier and go to brain, and it can result to neonatal brain damage. Okay. Now, whereas conjugated bilirubin is polar, soluble in plasma and cannot cross the blood-brain barrier for conjugated bilirubin. So, how to identify? There is a test known as Vandenberg reaction, which gives indirectly positive for unconjugated bilirubin and it gives directly positive for conjugated bilirubin. The name of the test is Vandenberg reaction. What is Vandenberg test for bilirubin? Bilirubin reacts with diazoreagent, okay, diazoreagents at acidic pH, and that azopigment is purple in color. Okay, this is a reaction, chemical reaction, where bilirubin reacts with diazoreagents at acidic pH to form a purple colored azopigment. Conjugated bilirubin, they are water soluble, they give the color immediately, hence called direct bilirubin. Okay, in a water solution media, if we react bilirubin with diazoreagent in an acidic condition, there is formation of purple colored azopigment directly. That's why conjugated bilirubin is called as direct bilirubin, whereas free bilirubin or unconjugated bilirubin is water insoluble. We have to make it water soluble first, okay, and then it will give the positive Vandenberg reaction. That is why it is called indirect reaction, or the unconjugated bilirubin is known as indirect bilirubin, where whenever you will go for a blood test, bilirubin test, it will give 3 readings, okay, total bilirubin, direct bilirubin and indirect bilirubin. So, direct bilirubin is a conjugated one and indirect bilirubin is the free or unconjugated bilirubin. So, which should be higher in our blood, conjugated or unconjugated? Unconjugated. Indirect bilirubin, exactly, very good. Unconjugated bilirubin or indirect bilirubin should be higher in our blood. So, we have to know the normal plasma bilirubin level also, okay. So, total plasma bilirubin level ranges from 0.2 to 0.8 milligram per dl. Approximately 0.2 to 0.8 total bilirubin, okay, and among which, look at the values, unconjugated bilirubin is about 0.2 to 0.6, whereas conjugated bilirubin is very less, 0.1 to 0.2, right. Now, if the plasma bilirubin level exceeds 1 milligram, it is called as hyperbilirubinemia. This is the disease, hyperbilirubinemia, and when it remains between 1 milligram to 2 milligram, it is indicative of latent jaundice. Latent jaundice means jaundice is happening, okay. What is jaundice? When bilirubin level exceeds 2 milligram per deciliter, it diffuses into tissues, producing yellowish discoloration of sclera, conjunctiva, skin and mucous membrane, resulting in jaundice. How does it look? Like this, okay. Conjunctiva, sclera, all yellowish, skin yellowish, okay. So, jaundice is known as icterus also, okay. It is a Greek term for jaundice. So what are the causes of hyperbilirubinemia? What could be the causes? So till now we have studied the normal process, now we are studying the disorders. So hyperbilirubinemia may be due to increased bilirubin production. Increased bilirubin production can be from hemolysis, increased hemolysis, decreased hepatic uptake. If the hepatocytes are not functioning properly, or if there is any transporter deficiency, it will lead to decreased uptake of bilirubin. Decreased hepatic conjugation. This can also occur in hepatic diseased state, in any disease of liver, and decreased excretion of bilirubin into bile. This also can occur from any transporter defect, like MRP2 transporter defect mainly lead to decreased excretion of bile into blood. So these are the main causes of hyperbilirubinemia. We will go into details. Now, classification of hyperbilirubinemia. How to classify? It can be classified as acquired or inherited. Inherited means by birth it is present, or acquired means after birth it has occurred. Okay, so acquired hyperbilirubinemia can be of these 4 types. So neonatal jaundice, it is also known as physiological jaundice. Okay, so we will discuss in details. Hemolytic jaundice, that is prehepatic jaundice. Why hemolytic jaundice is prehepatic jaundice? Because hemolysis occurs in the circulation before coming to liver. That is why hemolytic jaundice, wherever there is hemolysis or breakdown of RBCs, that is prehepatic. Now another one is hepatocellular jaundice or hepatic jaundice, when there is hepatitis or any kind of hepatic disorder. Liver is dysfunction, so that will lead to hepatic jaundice. And the last one is obstructive jaundice. Obstructive jaundice, bile duct obstruction or hepatic bile canaliculi are obstructed. So that is post-hepatic jaundice. So jaundice can be divided into these 4 types, mainly based on their acquired hyperbilirubinemia. So prehepatic, hepatic and posthepatic. Now come to physiological jaundice. It is also called as neonatal hyperbilirubinemia. In all newborn infants after 2nd day of life, mild jaundice appears. Why? The transient hyperbilirubinemia is due to accelerated rate of destruction of RBCs, and also because of the immature hepatic system of conjugation of bilirubin. So conjugation occurs in liver, and there is accelerated RBC destruction in newborns because till now maternal circulation was there. After birth, baby will start its own, his or her own circulation. So maternal RBCs will get destroyed in the system, and it will lead to massive hemolysis, releasing massive hemoglobin and bilirubin. So to conjugate that much of bilirubin, baby's hepatic system is not prepared. That will lead to increase of bilirubin transiently, and it will not increase above 5 milligram per dl. Okay, it disappears by 2nd week of life. It is normal. Now hemolytic jaundice or prehepatic jaundice. Hemolytic jaundice in newborn. Okay, so we can see any kind of hemolytic jaundice in newborn also, and that can occur because of Rh incompatibility. We have studied about Rh incompatibility when the fetus is Rh positive and mother is Rh negative. So mother's body produces antibodies against the fetus, and not for the first child but for the 2nd child, Rh antibodies from mother will pass to fetus and start destroying the fetal red cells very rapidly after birth. Okay, and the condition is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. When it is very critical, child may die in uterus also. Okay, and what is kernicterus? When the unconjugated bilirubin concentration in plasma exceeds 20 to 25 milligram per dl. Normal is 0.2 to 0.8. So when it crosses 20 to 25, this results in toxic encephalopathy or kernicterus. In child or in children before 1 year of age, blood brain barrier is also not fully matured. So free bilirubin can enter easily into brain, leading to neurotoxic symptoms like mental retardation, fits, toxic encephalitis and spasticity. Okay, and all these symptoms clinically is known as Garnick-Tiras or toxic encephalopathy. Now, when a child develops hemolytic disease, so what should be the treatment? Exchange transfusion along with phototherapy. Phototherapy helps in isomerization of insoluble bilirubin to more soluble isomers. Okay, so phototherapy is a kind of treatment which is given very commonly for physiological jaundice to the newborn babies. Okay, now pre-hepatic or hemolytic jaundice in adults. It increases the breakdown of hemoglobin to bilirubin as there is excess hemolysis, and excess hemolysis can be seen in sickle cell anemia, sickle hemoglobin. In case of deficiency of enzyme glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, there will be breakdown of RBCs, and in case of incompatible blood transfusion also there will be increased hemolysis. So, in case of hemolytic jaundice, increased plasma concentration of unconjugated bilirubin or indirect bilirubin will be much more, and urobilinogen in urine and feces will also be increased, but there is absence of bilirubin. Bilirubin means conjugated bilirubin will be absent in urine. Okay, fine. Now, hepatocellular or hepatic jaundice. It occurs because of the cell damage of liver. Okay, and conjugation of bilirubin is hampered, resulting in unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia mainly, but it can also damage the biliary tract, leading to obstruction, and which can also increase the plasma level of conjugated bilirubin. So, in hepatic type of jaundice, both the conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin will increase. In case of pre-hepatic, only unconjugated bilirubin will be high. In case of hepatic bilirubin, hyperbilirubinemia, what will happen? Both the unconjugated and conjugated one will be increased. Exactly. So, what are the causes of hepatic jaundice? Infections or viral hepatitis, hepatitis A, B, C, D, E, everything. Toxic chemicals like alcohol, chloroform, all these various drugs, and liver cirrhosis will lead to hepatic jaundice. Now, what will be the biochemical features or finding? Increased concentration of conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin both, decreased amount of urobilinogen in urine and feces, presence of bilirubin in urine, and raised level of ALT and AST. This is very important to identify whether it is hepatic jaundice or not. LFT. So, raised level of liver enzymes will show that this is a hepatic type of jaundice. Now, post-hepatic or obstructive jaundice, if there is obstruction in common bile duct, that will prevent the passage of conjugated bilirubin from liver cell to intestine, leading to accumulation of conjugated bilirubin in hepatocytes. What may be the causes of obstruction? Blockage of the common bile duct by gallstones, carcinoma of head of pancreas, or carcinoma of the bile duct itself. Okay. So, what will be the biochemical features? Here, increased plasma concentration of conjugated bilirubin will be seen. How this conjugated bilirubin comes into plasma? By backflow. Okay. So, hepatocytes will be full of conjugated bilirubin, it will backflow into the systemic circulation. Absence of urobilinogen in feces and urine. In total obstruction of biliary tree, bile does not enter the intestine, so there is no pigment entering the gut, feces will be clay colored. So, in case of gallstone obstruction, clay colored stool is a major finding. Okay. Presence of bilirubin bile salts are there in urine, and here is another marker for obstructive jaundice, that is raised level of plasma ALP, alkaline phosphatase. This is high, this will be very high in case of post-hepatic or obstructive jaundice. So, see, in case of normal bilirubin metabolism, RBC lysis occurring and bilirubin is produced and it is coming to liver, then it is getting conjugated and excreted into the intestine. From intestine it is, some part is reabsorbed, some part is excreted via urine. But in prehepatic there is more and more hemolysis resulting in more and more unconjugated bilirubin. So unconjugated bilirubin will be high, RBC lysis high, and it will also increase the rate of conjugation. Okay, so intrahepatic circulation will also increase and urobilinogen will be high in urine also. In hepatic jaundice, what is defective? The uptake is defective. Okay, and if uptake is not defective, then there will be this conjugation will be defective. Okay, so defective conjugation, defective intrahepatic circulation, decreased urobilinogen. In post-hepatic, see here is the obstruction. So obstruction, regurgitation will be there, increased urine bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin will be there from backflow. This is the backflow. Okay, clear? Okay, now this chart you have to remember what are the findings and in which type of jaundice what will be found. Unconjugated will be high in hemolytic, whereas conjugated bilirubin will be high in hepatocellular and mostly in obstructive jaundice. ALP will be very high in obstructive jaundice, whereas other liver enzymes will be high in hepatocellular jaundice. In obstructive jaundice, fecal urobilinogen and stercobilinogen will be absolutely absent. Okay, clear? Now, inherited hyperbilirubinemias, you have to know the names and also the causes. Okay, so Gilbert syndrome, Crigler-Najjar syndrome, Dubin-Johnson syndrome and Rotor syndrome. These are the 4 inherited hyperbilirubinemias. What is Gilbert? It is a autosomal dominant type of inherited disorder characterized by mild unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. When we are talking about unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia, it is because of impaired hepatic uptake of bilirubin. Uptake is impaired, that is why unconjugated bilirubin is getting higher. Okay. Also, there is a partial defect in conjugation due to reduced activity of glucuronil transferase enzyme. Okay, bilirubin level is usually around 3 milligram per dl, but the patient is asymptomatic. Okay, and there is no fatal outcome. It is not fatal. Now, Crigler-Najjar is a fatal type of inherited hyperbilirubinemia where there is deficiency of hepatic glucuronil transferase enzyme. So, no conjugation will be there. It can be of 2 types, type 1, type 2. Type 1 where is complete absence, type 2 where the partial deficiency is there. Okay, so in case of complete absence of conjugating enzyme, there will be no conjugation from birth and there will be kernicterus and early death. So, Crigler-Najjar type 1 is fatal. In Johnson, what happens? It is also autosomal recessive disorder due to defective hepatic secretion of conjugated bilirubin into bile. What helps in secretion of conjugated bilirubin into bile? MRP2 transporter. Okay, so whenever there is deficiency or any disruption of the function of MRP2 transporter, it is characterized by raised plasma conjugated bilirubin, characterized by abnormal black pigment in hepatocytes, okay, imparting dark brown to black color, and this is also known as black liver jaundice. Rotor syndrome, it is also an autosomal recessive condition where the uptake is defective because of this uptake proteins. Do you remember from uptake of bilirubin? These are the proteins, membrane proteins, which helps it facilitated uptake of the bilirubin. So, there will be bilirubin build up in blood and urine. Okay, but this is also a benign disease requiring no treatment. Okay, so how to classify the acquired and inherited disorders of hyperbilirubinemia? Also in 2 groups, conjugated and unconjugated. In obstructive and hepatic jaundice, we saw that conjugated hyperbilirubinemia will be there. In case of hemolytic jaundice, hepatic jaundice can cause both conjugated and unconjugated. Okay, neonatal jaundice and hemolytic jaundice will majorly cause unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. In case of inherited disorders, Dubin-Johnson and Rotor, they are related to excretion. So they will cause, they are related to secretion of conjugated bilirubin. So they will cause conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Whereas Kliegler-Nazar and Gilbert, they are related to uptake and conjugation. So they will lead to unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Now come to the MCQs. Which enzyme is responsible for the first step in heme catabolism? Heme oxygenase. The enzyme biliverdin reductase requires which coenzyme for its action? NADPH. Okay. In the liver, bilirubin is conjugated with which molecule to become soluble? Glucuronic acid. Very good. Impaired glucuronyl transferase activity is seen in all except Rotor syndrome, physiological jaundice, Kriegler-Nazar, Gilbert. No, in physiological jaundice also there is impaired conjugation because of the immature hepatocytes in newborn. In Rotor syndrome, it is because of the uptake defect. Okay, whether Rotor was because of uptake. Delta bilirubin is which kind of bilirubin and how it is bound to albumin. I have not taught this, but from here I am telling it. It is a conjugated type of bilirubin which is covalently bound to albumin. Okay, so delta bilirubin is nothing but conjugated bilirubin covalently bound to albumin, and it cannot pass the glomerular membrane and cannot be present in urine. Okay.